Did that say it was recording?
It says it's recording.
It said it recorded on mine. Barbara, can I say something before you guys get
Yes.
started, if that's okay with
Yes.
everybody?
Yeah.
You ready?
Yes.
Happy birthday to you.
We should all sing.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday,
to Barbara.
Barbara. Happy birthday.
To you.
How old are you? Just kidding.
Tammy, thank you. Thank you. Made me blush.
On Pi Day. That's perfect.
On Pi Day, yes. 314. Yeah. But as we know, I probably wasn't born. There's a whole story about I don't believe, and Tammy's confirmed that I was actually born on the 13th. But my mother was very superstitious, and it was Friday the 13th. So she said I wasn't born till after midnight. So I could talk for an hour on that, but I'll go with the 14th. Right? So I'm telling everybody that I'm actually 17. So
You're 17?
Oh. 17, yeah. Backwards. Yeah. All right. So we're recording, we're all set. So I know more people might join us, but we are going to record this. So I'd like to thank all of you for joining us for Dragon Hour. I know Kelley has been like raring to go. She was an hour early. So I am going to do a quick introduction. Kelley actually wrote a new bio, and I think it's worth sharing. So thank you for those of you that joined us live, and thank you for those of you who signed up. This will go out within a day or two, and it will be up on YouTube and on my website. And I believe Kelley's going to put it up on her website as well, right? And on your Facebook page, right? So before I read this, I want to say, so Kelley and I met through Dragon Thunder. And I think quite a few of my guests that have been on here this year have been through Dragon Thunder. So I was actually co-host last year of the first Dragon Thunder with Kevin from the UK. And Kelley was one of the, you did a live, did you, Kelley? Yes, she did. Yeah, she did a live on there. And then, so fast forward, after all that was over, Kevin and I were, so he'd decided, his dragons told him that he had to do a 24-hour Dragon Thunder. So it's going to be in 3 countries. It's starting in Australia and then going to the UK and then finishing off in the United States. So we were meeting and he said, so I'm not sure who should be your co-host. And I said, no, let me ask the dragons. And he goes, yeah, let me ask the dragons. And we both came up with the same name, and that was Kelley. So I think we were supposed to co-host.
Yes,
and then, of course, I met Kelley, and there were just so many things in common that we had. And then she put on this fabulous journey that we took just recently, which she will talk about, which opened up a whole lot more. I'm already getting goosebumps about all the connections that we made. And I had a lot of aha moments during that. So let me tell you a bit about Kelley. So Kelley Spinger is a visionary founder of love, wisdom, power, paths to wholeness. With a rich tapestry of skills and experiences, Kelley is renowned as a spiritual counselor, elder wise woman, intuitive healer, artist, musician, and storyteller. Her journey is marked by profound connections with the spiritual realm, evidenced by her roles as an initiate water mother, clan leader, light language, and dragon communicator. For over 3 decades, Kelley has honored her craft, offering transformative healing through her unique modality, the Song of Returning. Rooted in deep core integration, this pathway to wholeness reflects Kelley's dedication to her practice and clients' well-being. Drawing from a Scottish and Native American heritage, she weaves ancestral wisdom seamlessly into her spiritual work, empowering her clients to know and understand how to love themselves and the life around themselves more fully. Kelley's delights in guiding her clients and students to discover their spiritual allies, including animal totems, ancestral guides, and even personal dragons. Her deep affinity for the mystical creature is evident in her prophetic tale, The Dragon Awakening, which chronicles her 25-year relationship with the dragons of Ascensions of Light. And it goes on a bit more, but I think you get the idea. So Kelley has been communicating with dragons for 25 years. So some of us, I feel like a baby when it comes to that. So I'm going to hand over to Kelley to talk. And then at the end, we actually have an announcement to make. So stay till the end. So I'll hand over to you, Kelley. And if you haven't already, just mute yourself. And if you want to stay on camera, that's fine. It's nice to see a few faces.
Thank you. Wow. Well, beautiful. Well, it's awesome to be here. I'm super excited to be invited to join you all and to share. Talking out loud about dragons is pretty amazing for many of us, especially those of us who are coming out publicly to talk about them, because it's oftentimes not a place we fathomed ever being. The idea, oh yeah, I'm going to be on the stage someday talking about dragons was never my cup of tea, never something I put on my things to do list. Oh yeah, go out and talk publicly about dragons next week. It's on my list now, so it's now there. So it's a new world, I would say. So dragons for me was a slow burn. At first, I had to really get to know them. When the dragons showed up for me, it was in 1999. I was 5 years into becoming a full-time healer. I'd given up a career, and I was starting to walk a path as a holy woman by choice. For me, I say holy woman because I didn't go to school and become a therapist. I chose a spiritual path. And for me, that was really about being a listener. Everything that I had been awakened by had come to me through really sitting and listening to spirit and listening to my guides, and in particular, my ancestors. I had really powerful, rich ancestral guides that showed up at the beginning of my own personal awakening. This was like in my 30s. One of the things that Barbara and I really connected about, that we're going to share about later, was that we're both elders. And a lot of people don't realize I am an elder because my hair's light. I look younger. I don't look like my age to most people, but I'm in my second elder initiation right now. And over the years, working with dragons, it was like even my elder teachers at the time when I started to meet them didn't know how to tell me very much about dragons. I had 4 elder shaman teachers throughout my journey, and only one of them is still walking on the earth. 3 of them have crossed the Rainbow Bridge, and they got louder when they left. So I still listen to them. I still hear from them. But at the time, a lot of them didn't know what to say to me about the dragons that were showing up talking to me. They were like, well, are they good? And I was like, well, I feel goodness from them. So for me, it was meeting these really beautiful beings that were telling me that they had come in to help me. And at the time, I didn't know that I was starting a very prophetic journey that was going to mean something to the world, not just me at the time. So when we're here on the earth, sometimes we're here to fulfill promises. There's a lot of prophecy about that. that all of us that are here right now are here to complete certain promises, agreements. Many of us are tracking back. We know we've been here before, or we've been here for lifetimes. Some of you may have that feeling about yourselves in your own holy journeys, you know. So for me, finding my pathway with the dragons was like, it was a big mystery, you know. I had to unpack it. I had to find the pieces and eventually put those pieces together, and it had meaning. That happened quite a lot over the 25-year journey that I had with dragons. So I actually share that in my Dragon Awakening class, which is coming up March 23rd. If any of you want to come to that, I download the whole story of that and give you a much more deep conversation about it in a 2-hour class. So if you feel called to hear that story, it's really profound for most people. It puts pieces together that a lot of us already have pieces too. And then what I was told by the dragons is that when we come and share our stories with each other, we begin to put pieces together that we're each holding, and that nobody has the single story, that we are all carrying pieces of it. That as the dragon said, we would start sharing more, we would begin to be able to put the whole story together. And at some point, we'll all get it figured out. I'm looking forward to that day. So I know that at some point it's going to be a big aha moment for a lot of us. So yeah, so what I want to share with you is that as I got through these moments of getting to know dragons, my relationship to them became more and more prophetic. And then it became more and more meaningful in the now time that we're in. So I'm going to jump to that. When I recently hit the new year, all of a sudden, right before the new year began, I had this incredible, profound connection with the Mother, Divine Sophia. Now, for me, when I go and connect to the celestial beings that are the God source, I have a whole family of light beings that I work with there, a mother, a father. Sophia, to me, is the mother who is the creator mother of all life. So the mother is God, if you will. And I was raised in a very religious family, and the spiritual understanding that I was given as a young person was of a father who was very domineering and threatening, that God. And for me, I had to go on a search to find my own understanding of what the divine was and what spiritual meaning was for me, from a place of understanding a higher power. Over the years, I found my way to all kinds of eclectic studies. I studied shamanism, I studied women's spirituality, I studied with Z Budapest and all these beautiful women in the Bay Area for quite some time. And I began to study vision questing and native traditions, and I inherited a medicine wheel from my teacher and wound up leading vision questing and deep immersive experiences in nature. And I found that natural connectivity to life force, the three kingdoms of the earth, the minerals, the plants, and the animals are my home. They're like, I'm at home with nature, and I find that I feel so connected to spirit and to the great mystery that source is for so many of us. And I started to just embrace all faiths. So for me, when I became a holy woman, it was to be non-denominational and to embrace all paths and honor all people. So it made me really open-minded and conscious in ways that was beautiful for me, but scary for my family. And eventually they came to this place of really embracing me, which was so unexpected but beautiful. And I'm grateful for that. So a lot of times the things that we believe in can divide us from each other. So I was really blessed in that as I was awakening, I was sharing my truths with my family, and I was also practicing what I was being taught. And a big part of what I was being taught was how to really connect to my own soul light through deep core integration work, working with my subconscious, my shadow, understanding the layers of what it means to be a whole human being. And coming through that brought me to this place of understanding wholeness and mapping it, and ancestral thread healing became part of it. And I really expanded into this greater awareness. So when I started to invite my family members to learn about the things I was learning, I never knew what I was going to get back from them. It was either going to be fear, utter rejection, or maybe a willingness to listen. And what I wound up getting to eventually was a total level of acceptance and love. And that was the most beautiful thing. And in fact, when it first happened, I didn't believe it. I was like stunned. It happened with my father, and he was in town working nearby. He came to visit me and he said, "Let's have lunch." And at lunch, he told me, "I completely accept you just the way you are, and I will never seek to change you." And I was like, "Who are you? And where's my dad?" You know? And the next day, he asked me to lunch again and repeated it. And I knew that was me in resistance. It was like the first day I really didn't believe it. I hadn't really quite taken it in. So he repeated it the next day and I got it. And for me, the same thing has been true with my guides and the dragons. I sometimes need a hammer in order to get a thing because I'm very sometimes resistant or stubborn, and it'll take me a while before I'll go, okay, and really let it in. So I have had the most beautiful confirming experiences because of my stubbornness. So in a way, the stubbornness has just blessed me with absolutism. So getting all these absolute confirmations, especially with the dragons over time, really meant that I could trust them. And I built this enduring greater and greater trust and love for them. And I began to understand them as my friends, and that they were really here to be allied and assisting, that they were coming in to help us. And there was something also that I really appreciated about the dragons over and over again, which was how simple everything was that came from them. The information you get from dragons to me is not complicated. Humans complicate things. We make things messy, but dragons don't. When dragons are sharing their heart with you, it's real clear, very simple, extremely soft most of the time, and very succinct. You know, it's like going to the pith of the orange. You get right to the pith. They know exactly what you're needing to hear, exactly what to say to you, and exactly how to present it. So here I was at the beginning of this last year, and all of a sudden I got this message from Sophia, the Divine Mother, that she wanted me to teach. And she said, "Hey, I want you to work with the celestial dragons." And I had just been through a massive personal expansion with celestial dragons. It came in a way that I never expected. It was a real surprise, but it was a real beautiful gift. My own light in my higher dimensional bodies, which I work with directly and communicate with very, very easily, have been doing a lot with journey work with people. And I was journeying beyond this universe. And in my beyond this universe body, I gave birth to something that was my own creation. And in my new creation, I was brought a gift of celestial dragons. And they were showing up and talking to me like just in the most amazing, beautiful way. And I was working with Christ and all of the divine feminine energies that work with me, a lot of master energies, including Lord Shiva, Pavati, working with Tara, and lots of Buddhas. And I work with all these different beings. Like I said, I'm very eclectic. So I had all these beautiful beings that were showing up and talking to me. And I actually started talking to the father, who is the language bearer of our tribe, which is Cherokee. I started talking to Sequoia and getting messages from him. And over time, I kept finding all these beautiful little blessings. And so one of the things that happened at the beginning of the year was her telling me, I really want you to teach a class with me and the celestials. And I was like, okay. And so tell me more. And she was very vague. She said, "I want you to take people on a journey through the temples of light." And I was like, okay, I can do that. And she goes, "And you're going to work with me and one of my specific celestial dragons." Well, the week before that course was to start, all of a sudden this sky one night in the heavens. I was on my way home from a dance, and we do a lot of ecstatic dance in the community here. And I was ecstatic dancing, and I was on my way home, and it was like mist everywhere. You couldn't see the sky. And I heard this voice say, "Well, there's no clouds over the top of your house." And I was on my way home. So I got home and there was a break right when I came onto the road where I live in the clouds. And it was all so clear and beautiful. And all of a sudden I look up and the stars are so bright. I was like, I'm going to take a picture. And I took a picture of stars with my phone. I don't know if any of you have ever tried to do that. It doesn't always turn out. Most of the time you can barely see them. These were glowing in the photograph. Not only that, there was a great big dragon head in it. And I was like, oh, who are you? So I started talking to this dragon named Tiamu. Well, Tiamu turned out to be a celestial dragon to Sophia. And we were like, okay, I'm getting prepped. I know I'm being prepared. Something's coming. And that's when Sophia showed up and was like, okay, we're ready. So I went for it. I designed the class. I got everybody ready. I onboarded 10 people and I said, let's go. And we had a phenomenal time. We were taken into what I call origin temples. This is where the birth of light happened for the earth. It's beyond just saying, oh, it's old. It's like, this is from the beginning of creation in this earth. And we began to visit not only the light there, but the light that we belong to there. Now, let's talk about that. Most of us realize that there's something ancient in ourselves. I call it your all-knowing self, but our all-knowing self is already informed. You have a tremendous amount of knowledge already within you. And most of us even have a library of knowledge inside of us. And our deep, deep connection with these beautiful parts of ourselves are oftentimes really have to be triggered or stimulated in order to wake up. So many of you may have had experiences like that, where you're going along and all of a sudden something snaps and suddenly you're remembering something very profound or impressive about who you are. Well, the dragons don't hesitate to bring you to awakening. When they feel you're ready, they take you into it. So for me, it became an awareness that I could bring people through not only to a temple, but I could jump from one temple to the other, what I call bending time. And being able to bend time and move us as a group was a new experience for me. I was used to doing that with one-on-one people in my sessions, but I'd never done it with a whole group of people. So this was going to be a really new experience for me and and the group at the same time. So it was really fascinating. I found that what I met there was our own true light and mastery. Whatever we already had in our consciousness that was already mastered was being revealed to us from the beginning of the class. It was like 7 weeks of doing this. So we went through 7 weeks, every week meeting for one day where we would go for 4 hours through a process of journeying through these sacred temples. And it stimulated a lot of personal things that would wake up in us that were ready to heal or push us to the next level or remind us of where we had already come into a place of knowing who we are. But this coupled with an expansion I see happening with the earth itself. So to me, Gaia, our earth, is going through her own ascension, and we're going through it with her in a very awake state. You know, previously, Gaia has gone through incarnations and evolutions with us either frozen or asleep or, flooding the whole world. And we're going through this one wide open and very awake with her. And it puts us in a different category of creation work with the divine Gaia because we are not separate from her. And in that oneness that we all know we are, when we're working on it, coming into our truth as awake, light people, we wake up to our oneness and our connection to all things. It's not one thing, it's everything. The earth itself, not only the earth, the whole three kingdoms that are here with us, the crystals, the rocks, the earth herself, along with plants and animals, and then elementals, the realm dwellers, the things that exist between dimensions that are here in the ether. We are surrounded by spirits. There are thousands of beings around us. There are millions of creatures in the world we're living in that we don't see, and that have so much meaning and purpose in our lives. So those of us who are starting to feel the fairies, or notice that when the flowers are over here, there's more than just a flower sitting there, that there's a spirit with it, and that it's actually communicating. So becoming alive with the aliveness and beginning to understand that everything around us is talking to us, or can, becomes sort of really profound. For me, it was even more profound when I started talking to bugs. Now, it's one thing to sit and be in the garden and see a bug and start to talk to it, but mine would come to the door. So I'd be in my kitchen cooking, and I'd hear a knock, and I'd go, "Oh, someone's here," and I'd go to the front door, and I'd open the door, and there wouldn't be any person there. And so I would start to explore the walls around my door, like, okay, well, who is it? So, and a white tiger moth had come to my house and knocked on the door, literally, and it climbed in my hand, and it walked up my arm, and I brought it in the house. It walked up my neck, and was fluttering and sitting on my mouth. And I remember feeling like, oh, I got to really pay attention to how I'm breathing right now, because I don't want to eat him, I don't want to inhale. So I'm sitting there with this moth on my mouth, trying to remember to be careful while paying attention. And I remember the feeling I got from that messenger, which was, if you have something to say, you should really say it. And I remember, like, I held back so much. And I went to my shaman teacher the next day, and I told him about the experience. And he said, "Yeah, I was telling you to shut up." And I remember thinking, oh, great. The complete opposite of what my heart heard. And over the years, I just laugh, because spirit just keeps telling me, you have to learn how to really trust yourself. You have to really learn how to trust who you are, your own heart, and that divine connection you have to life around you. And, you're first, you're your number one. And so you want to come home to who you are and really trust it. So everything was talking to me: bugs, butterflies, dragons. I mean, so I felt really like I had a profound, beautiful experience in my life of feeling like I could really trust everything that was showing up in my life to talk to me. And I met with whales at the ocean. 5 blue whales showed up in the midst of my journey along the way. And I just kept meeting beings that were sentient, that had profound messages for all of us. So one of the things that the insect kingdom and the fairies said was that in my journey story with the dragons, when the dragons of the elements of this earth were originally asleep for a very long time, they were the guardians of the fairies. So when they woke up, we've had this really profound dragon awakening going on for the last 8 years, and it's expanding us. And the fairies are back out. They're back out, engaging a lot more. And they were around all of the time. So were dragons, but they weren't all as active and awake in us as they came to be after this massive shift happened. So I know that for many of us, this tremendous remembering is going on within us. So when Sophia asked me to do this journey and we went into these temples, it was really amazing. And we got to some places that were profound. Barbara, do you want to share a little bit about what you experienced in this journey? And Simone, you also were on our journey too.
Yeah. It actually reminded me of another, when you were talking about, Kelley has actually put some of my quotes in stuff she's been posting, but I came to the class with no expectations. I was like, this sounds really cool. I'm going to just go and see what happens. And it completely shifted, like so much. How I put it, for many years, many centuries, I've been working on a lot of things that I hadn't quite completed. And during this 7 weeks and some work I did with Kelley as well, everything just completed. But the one thing I remember was one of the going into, and I don't remember which temple it was, but we were supposed to stay together as a group and not go wandering off. And immediately when we went into I think it was the second temple, I saw a spaceship, and I was like, why is that just appeared? And then I was literally sucked up into it, and they said, we're taking you to the future. And literally I was shot forward. I don't know how long our meditation was, like 30 minutes, was it something like that?
Yeah.
And
it wasn't very long.
Yeah, I remember. So when we got so they took me really, really fast, and we sort of stopped. And then this voice said, so what do you see? You're in the future. And I looked around and I was like, oh, there's nothing. And they said, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, oh, I wasn't quite sure what that was meant at the time, until they then took me back really, really fast. And what I got from that was motion sickness. Literally, I was like,
you got time travel sickness.
It was time travel sickness. But then they asked me again, so we took you to the future and you saw nothing, because there is nothing. And then they went on to give me the whole thing about, we don't need these bodies. We don't need a body, but we will be there, and there will be lots of things, but we won't be traveling in this. And then they went on to tell me things that I already knew, that it was my last incarnation, that I've come from many other planets and in the past, and that's where I'm going back. And I've been saying that for a long time. But because I then, like the next day, I woke up and I was still travel sick. I mean, it was still, and I get motion sickness anyway. So Kelley and one of our other class members worked on me while I was working. And then I had I know it was hours we worked, but a couple of hours I spent with Kelley later in the day. And that was when we cleared. It's like it brought everything to the surface. And then you said, wow, I've never cleared this so quickly. And things were just like flying away from me. And from that experience, like I just felt much lighter and like whole. And then people would make comments. I mean, literally people would say, something's different about you. Like, have you changed your hair? Have you got different makeup on? Are you wearing brighter clothes? And I realized I was shining so much brighter. And even now, I mean, just people will make those comments because they don't know what it is, that they know there's something different. Who would have expected that? But
I find that to be common in integration work, that, over the 30 years I've been doing deep core work with people. What I can say is that wholeness in our soul light, when we're really in our bodies, when we're at home in who we are, is recognizable. On a soul level, we know that. Some part of us and our knowingness knows what it means to be whole. And when I talk about wholeness, I'm talking about our humanness. Our souls are already whole. But our human experiences oftentimes fractures us and gives us stuff to work through because we grow our emotional body over time. So when people recognize you after integrating, it's oftentimes to me them saying, oh, you're whole. Oh, I know what that is. Only they don't know how to say that to each other. So what they say is, I know you, don't I? So I have strangers who come up to me all the time and do that. They constantly, people are always like, I feel like I know you. And it's a very common element in my experience that people feel like they know you because they know that. And I really think it's about your light coming on. And I believe that when we did the work with you, you were dropping through those, those things that limit you are like veils. So when you drop a lot of veils that dull your perception of self, it really opens you up to be a shiny, bright light again when you don't have those veils in place, limiting you or keeping you from being true to you. So
Yeah, it's
it
true.
was beautiful.
And I think my biggest my and I remember it was in the first class when we came back from a meditation, and I'm like, and I'd never heard this term before, but I have a lot more now. I literally, a voice told me that I was an ancient. And I was like, I've never heard that. And Kelley went, oh, I know what that is. And I'm like, but I was clearly told I'm an ancient. And she's like, welcome. What do you call me? That was when you said I was the mother, grandmother energy, right?
Well, I didn't just say that.
So, no,
What I really
I know you
said.
said a lot.
Well, do you mind if I blow you out of the water a little more? Here
Oh,
we go.
no.
Let me blow you up a little bigger. And this is also something I have to get used to too with the dragons, because they'll tell you prophetic things about yourself, and it'll take you way outside of the scope of how you've perceived yourself. And most of the time we think very little of who we are, and we're very busy small, making ourselves small in our own minds in order to cope with our belief systems about ourselves, which most of the time have been things that have been telling you you're nobody and you're just another human on the planet and you're not important. But the truth is, you're beautiful, you are important, you might be bigger than life, and you could be a ditch digger. You could be doing something so simple on the earth that nobody even cares about or notices you very much. And you could have the greatest power in this world for helping it because you have a big heart and you have collected and cultivated a lot of life over lifetimes. And you could have been doing that for lifetime after lifetime after lifetime. And it becomes mastery within the soul, especially when you're carrying a lot of love. And the greater amount of love that you carry, the greater potential you have for caring for something. And when you've been cultivating since before the creation of this universe, you become a guardian and a protector of the things that are here instinctively. And many of the souls that are here are old. A lot of us are old. We didn't just go around the merry-go-round once. We aren't new souls. We've been here. Those of us who track into awakening and really connecting to dragons are old souls. Most of you already have a certain level of awakening within you, and you have incredible expansion potential. So the beautiful thing about what you were doing was identifying that you were greater, that you're older than the life of this earth and really older than the universe we're in. So when we track back to being truly ancient, we're not looking at just this planet alone. When we think about our age and our wisdom and what's been cultivated. So when you have that kind of light that carries forth, what we don't know is that we're very capable of commanding that light to be of benefit to the world we're in. And we so quickly go into seeing what we don't want and don't like about the world and jump on harping about it. But it's really interesting. I hear so much from people, even other light workers and people that are, here with care in their hearts. But 9 times out of 10, I'll say to them in the midst of ranting about something they don't like, asking them to tell me what they do want. And they they stumble to find the words. And I'm like, but you have to understand, we are made in the image of God. I believe that's true. I like the Bible because it's full of truths, and I like many sacred books and sacred texts. So, but in the biblical sense, being made in the image of God, well, yeah, as creators, you're little creators, each and every one of us. So if you could think about what you want to see in the world, what is it that you really want to do? So when you wake up to an ancientness, and this isn't to put any pressure on you, by the way, Barbara, but it is to say you have a divine authority that you can wield when you realize it. And when you realize that you have a divine authority, then this is why that moth came to me and why that story of the moth telling me, if you have something to say, you really should say it. and not hold back. So many of us are here with gifts that go beyond ourselves. When you're holding a pot of love and who you are, give it to the world. Think about sharing that. The dragons would tell me that over and over again, give it, give it, give it, give your gifts, and they were helping me to find other dragons and work on a interspecies negotiation that was so like waking up for me over the period of time that I was going through it, making my head spin sometimes, but really helping me to understand why things are the way they are on the earth. Why are humans so unfeeling? Why are they asleep? Why are they not noticing? Why are we calling each other like sheeple? Why do we believe that we're all, not awake? And why are we being like this? What is it about us that isn't awake? And the biggest thing that came out of that whole process for me was realizing our hearts are such a key. Staying in our heart chakra and really getting in touch with your heart, having ears and eyes developed on your heart. Vital, vital, very important. Always look at things from the heart place. My head will tell me stories, but my heart will tell me the truth. If I'm listening for spirit to tell me something, my head will go off and dance in all kinds of thoughts. But spirit will give me a direct conversation that sounds so much more truthful and meaningful and will always have a greater purpose. And oftentimes is more for more than just myself alone. So when we have a lot of love to share, Sophia came and she's like, hey, you're a messenger. You've got lots of service that you can provide. You have these gifts and I want you to work with me. Let's work together. We've got things to do. Let's get to work. It's like God saying, come on, let's go. So I'm like, okay. And I don't know where you're taking us, but I'm going to trust you. So I went completely on faith, teaching that course. And we were led to all the most beautiful, amazing places time after time. And it always had meaning and purpose for the people there. But the other profound thing about that was this. The dragons, Tiomu came to me and he said, you're going to find that the places that you go to are somewhat being guided not only by Sophia, but the people themselves. It's going to be what their inner knowing and wisdom is calling for. So some of the places that we wound up going were because of you. They were because of you who were there. And we don't realize in our lives enough that what a profound person you really are, that your presence here is actually affecting what I'm speaking right now. And because I didn't have a script, I'm talking to you. And whatever's coming out of my mouth is probably coming out to be spoken to those of you who are either going to be listening or are listening right now. And my spirit goes ahead and it takes care of that. It knows what we need to hear. And when we're in faith, we can be in the place of trusting, not going, oh, wow, am I going to say the right thing? Because it's not about that. It's really about speaking truths that wake us up and remind us that, we're all here in this place of awakening and wanting to remember the truth of who we are, why we're here, what we've come for, and our elemental partners are so connected to us. Now, the fact that they're awake on the earth as spiritual beings is so fantastic because we have dragons of ascension and light that are now completely swimming with us all over the earth. Now the celestials are coming. Now the celestials that are coming in are coming from the higher, beyond this universe place. They're coming from beyond the multiverse. They're coming from the source. And a celestial being at the source level is the most beautiful, pure being you can ever imagine connecting to in all creation. Let me say that again. The most beautiful, pure being that you can ever imagine connecting to in all of creation. And they are so full of love. And the most beautiful thing happens with working with a celestial at that level is that every essence of every particle of every part of your body goes into this beautiful, loving energy and bliss in the moment that you connect to it. So when I was preparing to speak at Dragon Thunder, I had 3 days before the event, I had this moment outside my yard where I got told to step outside and connect to the sky and look up. And there was this beautiful yin yang symbol in perfect balance, like a drawing in the sky, sitting over my head. And moments later, there was this dragon that's behind me now. And actually, I'll turn my camera off. So I want you to look at it so you can see it. So you can hear me, but you can't see me. So this is a picture of a dragon that was over my head. And it looked like a dragon with a being riding on it. And it had a rider. And one of the things that was interesting was that when Kevin started talking about Dragon Thunder, he was reaching out to all of us and calling us to join him as dragon riders. And I was like, oh, wow, that's really cool. So dragon riding was something I had been doing throughout my whole journey. When I was working with people who I was doing cleansing work with, sometimes ancestral healing, I'll find people who have aspects of their soul family or their light that are trapped in the underworld or the lower bardos. And my archetype, my magician, will jump on top of my dragon and go flying after him like without hesitation. And it was really funny when the first time I went into the lower dimensions to pick up someone, it was to rescue a child. And I went in to grab this kid and get them out of hell, this sort of lower frequency. And as I brought them up out of this darkness and into light, the whole bloodline reacted to it. It was like when one of us is down, we can all feel it. So one of the things that's going on with all of us humans is that we have a collective dynamic with each other that we continually have to contend with. Whether you're fully conscious of each other or not, we're feeling each other. And one of the biggest things awakening for all of us is this expansion with our heart chakra. Our heart energy is going through a massive shift right now. Many of you might be feeling this popping feeling where you get this feeling like a kind of flutter or a pop suddenly, and you might think, oh my God, am I having heart issues? And if you go to the doctor, you're going to find that there's nothing wrong. You can't find anything going on with you. And a big part of that is this expanding energy that we're going through right now. All of this love coming in with celestial beings and all of this expansion with the light of Gaia going into her own higher self, what we call a new earth. The new earth is birthing through many bodies and through a lot of us. And many of us are this energy of that, carrying forth a new vibration, a new frequency, and a new level of joy and beauty. And what do we want? And the biggest thing that we want is to understand that the human family is a tribe. It's not just one person, it's not one race, it's all of us together make this tribe called humanity on Earth. And learning how to embrace ourselves like the rainbow. Thank you, Margaret, for your rainbow dragon. And understanding that the rainbow and the rays and all of the light that we each carry, the vibration and the frequency, mimics that within us as well as with all of the dragons. And when you start thinking about it, understanding that the elementals exist throughout creation. So that means in the inner dimensions, the dimensions, the realms, I like to call them the realms, the space between dimensions, the realm dwellers, lots of dragons. And then in the dimensions, more dragons. And then when you think you go up into the space and you think of the void, there are dragons there too. And if you go into any kind of spiritual beings in multi-dimensions, you're going to find throughout all the families of light, they all have dragons. They all have elemental connections because the elementals exist throughout everything in creation. They're everywhere. There's no place where they're not. So dragons exist throughout all creation, throughout all time, throughout space, everywhere you can think and imagine. The idea of expanding us into their own universe is exponentially expanding ourselves. So we are already expanding into ourselves, reaching up to higher and higher places where we have to go beyond where we think we are. And then, but when we go into really letting them let us take them off into the journey, there's literally no limit to where we might go if we allow ourselves to believe in them. So the invitation is there to open your heart and let it open, and then believe that you can be brought to wherever it is you're ready to meet yourself because they'll take you to a higher and higher and higher level. There's no limit. It'll just keep going up until you get to the source. And then you can find yourself.
God, it's all down.
There's a beautiful thing I call there the songs. Is someone asking a question? I'm open to taking questions if anybody wants to ask anything.
Yeah.
So
I'm
another
curious
thing,
about something.
Sure, go ahead.
Can you share like your very first experience with a dragon and what that was like for you? Because there's a lot of, when they approached me, they were concerned about the misinformation and the distortions around the story of the dragon, especially in the West.
Yes, it was really interesting. It was a very specific moment. I was sitting in my healing room, and I didn't just have one dragon that came in. I had 8 of them. And they called themselves by a name as a group, introduced themselves as the Dragons of Ascension and Light, and told me they were here to help me. My heart, I remember feeling super excited when they spoke to me, and deeply curious, like, huh? And but at the same time, my heart felt completely nothing but love. I felt so much warmth and love from them. And I remember, they weren't like expressing concern with me. They just would answer questions as time went by. I think I had more thoughts after meeting them about, like, dragons. How do we frame that? Where do we put that? And for me, meeting some of my Cherokee ancestors and people helped me, because I think my guides really were there for me in a bigger way at that moment. And that made a difference for me. I think if I hadn't had that, it would have been a little more confusing and harder to work through it. But having my ancestral guides very present, and the Divine Mother was there. I'm really guided by her a lot. I work with the Divine Father as well, very deeply. But it was like, I would say my guides really saved my consciousness in that moment from going into misperception. And I was being taken specifically to a deep relationship I had with them that I had very, very much so forgotten.
Yeah, I think it's interesting that different people have, like, dragons have appeared to them in different ways. Mine were dragons were not on my radar at all. I was more blown away by galactics that I was channeling. And I was out, it was 2 years ago, I was out walking, and I kept hearing, look up. And when I looked up, there was at least 6 dragons that were literally, they were in the sky. So I called them my sky dragons, and they were flying and they were frolicking, as they kept telling me. And I literally took my camera out and just kept my cell phone out and just kept taking pictures. And when you blow them up, you could see faces. And my question was, why am I seeing dragons? And I got nothing. I mean, there wasn't like they said, oh, well, we're appeared to you because. It was just not, because I needed to find out that connection. Now I know why, but it was just literally and they told me, oh, we probably won't appear again in the sky for you. Because I'm like, well, where are you now? But I do see, where I live, I see a lot of storm dragons, and they're usually coming back from a storm, and they're usually all lined up. So I don't know if anybody else has had what their experience was like with first time dragon. And I didn't, for the longest time, I didn't see them. I would hear them, but I never saw them. And it wasn't until I was actually taking Lisa Thompson's class on galactics that I started to meet the dragons, and they started to tell me more about where they were and who they were for me, because I think it's a very personal journey that we all have and why we've met them.
Yeah.
And I think, like you said earlier, Kelley, I remember going, first of all, it was like explaining to people that I channeled, and then it was like, oh, and I channeled galactics and dragons. And people
well,
like,
and I remember one of the 8 dragons that showed up was my personal dragon. And I had to differentiate with them, what do you mean, my personal dragon? And so I was being told from the beginning that my own elemental had shown up and that she was highly evolved. So when they were talking about my dragon being highly evolved, I wasn't clicking that I was highly evolved yet, but I had to get there, and it definitely got me there, to that place of understanding, the things that I was doing with dragons was not ordinary. It was unique. So, and they were pointing things out to me, and then I had like a very, a number of profound experiences that just kept, for me, helping me to understand that there was something more than ordinary going on with my experience. So, move over Merlin, there's another wizard here, and the magician in you, which, by the way, we all have the magician archetype. In my map for wholeness, you have 6 archetypes, and then it can expand into higher bodies and higher light bodies from there into 8. But our archetypes are actually much greater than just 3 or 4. And in the archetypal map, I learned, is an ancient map that has been around on the earth in the mystery schools forever. And I found that when I teach it, the archetypes show up in the class. So that happened when I taught in Japan and in several other countries, and in the US, when I would share, the archetypes would show up. So, and they're equal to us, our archetypal self. So we have all these aspects of ourselves that we can actually work with that help us. And so I couple inner child work and deep core integration work with working with your all-knowing higher light self, because your inner knowing elder self can heal your inner child. And to some degree, I take people through empowered processing work where they're doing their own work, but I give them the guidance and support and just navigate. What was profound about Barbara was that she did the kind of work that I do with people, only it's usually over the course of 3 to 5 sessions with someone in 1 hour. She was like, oh, you just did that. And then boom, oh, you just did that. It was like remarkably fast. So when people are needing to have a breakthrough and to get whole or complete with themselves, I'm really good at doing completion work with you. So if it's something that's calling to you, or you feel like you're needing, if you're feeling like Kelley's on my mind, then don't wait, call or reach out to me. I'm very reachable and very accessible. So I am offering some classes, and I'm doing this Dragon Awakening class. If you want to hear the history story that I lived through, you might find it interesting for yourself. It's not just about me, it's about the earth history I pieced together. Now, a lot of us have pieces of that story, and I never say my story is the story. It's a story. It's a piece of the bigger story. So I always invite people to think spherically when you hear the stories of people telling you about evolutionary information about the dragons, because there's multi-dimensions at play that are part of it. And oftentimes when stories don't meet, that's why. One's happening in one dimension, one's happening in the other, and they're both true. So if that helps you, I hope that helps you to hold open your mind and listen to stories more openly and willingly. Let me share a little bit. My website is lovewisdompower.com. You can find all my classes and courses that I offer there. I teach a meditation class now. I'm calling the Monday morning dragon meditation, where I introduce a dragon and practices for quieting the mind and deepening in your listening that you can use with any other practices you're doing. These are practices you can incorporate. And I'm teaching that every Monday morning at 8 a.m. on the Pacific Coast. So wherever you time out at, if you want to join, it's on the website. I also am teaching the next Temple of Light journey. It's starting in May 19th through June 30th. It's going to be 7 weeks, meaning every Sunday from 1 to 4 o'clock. It's on a weekend. And I'm coupling that package of that course with a healing package, and there's 3 different levels to that. But I found that everyone needed integration support. And it's deep awakening, acceleration work. So it's not something I just want to throw at people. We're not just trying to move into the light. We also have to integrate our truth, our shadow, our woundedness, and whatever else hasn't broken through yet. So we want to do it with mindfulness. And that way you really actually have a foundation and you come into being able to anchor in it. It integrates into the tree of life within you and you're able to hold it. So it's really important to me to do things with that level of care. And I was really guided by Sophia because of my skill as an integrator to do this course because I have the ability to do that. And so it's really been wonderful to take people on this accelerated journey and yet be able to also support them. So for me, that's really important. So those are the 3 things I'm offering right now. I also do one-on-one work with people. So if you haven't done deep core integration work, I recommend that for anyone. It's very, very powerful. It's important that we come into our full self. In order to hold and bring in light, when you go reaching up to the light and pulling down heaven, as you will, if you're struggling to hold it, 9 times out of 10, it's because you haven't done your foundation work. And your foundation is really your rooted self in this body. And to come home to who you are inside of you and to be able to meet the earth fully, you have to be fully here. A lot of times when we're half here, we have a halfway of connecting to everything around us because you can only give and share from the place that you hold within yourself. What that means is your measuring stick of self-love. So the integration work that I do helps people to have more confidence in loving who they are and trusting themselves, to be themselves. Everybody's working on themselves all the time. I never stop healing. Anybody who's intelligent, hopefully, isn't ever going to stop growing. One would be, I think, making a terrible misstep to decide to not grow. So, because everything is changing and moving and at play in our world all the time. So it's a time and a play for all of us to really be meeting more each other and playing together at what we're creating for this new world that we want, the new earth that we want to see, and the next generation that's coming in awake and a lot more on fire with information for us. We need to listen to children, not just guide them and support them, but actually be willing to listen to what they're saying. Children are awake and on fire, talking to the world in their young preteen years here on the earth right now. Imagine what the new children who are coming in and the more advanced energy are going to be doing. A lot. And so I just encourage us to trust what's down and in front of us. We pass on to the next generation what we've learned. That's elderhood. And with that, we should talk about what we are about to do, because Miss Barbara and I had an epiphany, and it was really kind of wonderful, but part of it was realizing we're both elders. Did you just turn 71 or 72? Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
71. So in my native tradition, you become an elder when you're 52. You become a full adult. You know, up until then, you can make mistakes, but after you're 52, you're supposed to be like sharing knowledge. It's like your time to give forth what you have been, taught. So I'm turning 62 this next month. And so I'm in number 2 elder initiation. My first one was at 52. And I'm like, wow, the dragons, I think, really want to do something with us. And we were talking about it. And I said, what do you think of the name of a podcast called Dragon Elder Song? And that felt good, didn't it? We were like, huh, yeah.
Yeah.
So we're going to start a podcast that is called that is about the elder voice. Then, the dragons are older and wiser, but when they come through us as our personal dragons, and those of us who are old souls and ancients are going to have a lot to say that is really about the truth of wisdom. And I believe it's going to be a place where we can invite others to come and share that with us, and invite that from you, because, you're that too. And I want to hear from your hearts, and we want to engage more. So we're going to start a podcast together, and we're working on the details of it right now. So
but it was definitely that coming to that, like that aha moment of being ancient, of experiencing a lot of what you just talked about was what I experienced. And I was like, what am I doing? What's happening to me? So after I did a birthing, the following week I did my dragon empowerment Reiki level 2, and I had exactly the same experience when we were doing a meditative journey. I literally saw myself open up and literally disappear and birth like a galaxy. And I'm like, oh, because you told me, well, that's what you did. And I'm like, okay. But it makes, like, and when you say it doesn't, to me, and what I've learned with Kelley as well is when I say it doesn't sound wrong, because that's exactly what happened, right? Because you're like, well, that's what happened. And I think that, like, talking about that as, ancients and as elder voice is what's empowering, rather than saying we're older, nobody wants to hear from us. Because as you say, we've got a lot of wisdom that the dragons are sharing. And as another coincidence, when you were talking about the celestial dragons, I was also being told there was this incoming dragons, because I tend to connect with collective of dragons, because I am, you mentioned Merlin, but I am the connector of dragons and people to dragons. But I've been seeing them coming, and they're going to be here by the spring equinox. But I'm seeing them in all these beautiful, and people are describing that they've already landed. Several people have contacted me. Some of them have landed in Europe, in England. And these are those very old, ancient. They're bringing in a lot more knowledge. So we're both getting the same things coming to us.
Yeah. Those messengers and those new presence of elementals coming in are going to help us with that piece that I've been asking all of you to think about, which is our next self, our next, what do we want and what do we want to create? What do we want to become and what do we want to be? And having elemental influence from celestials really raises your vibration up to something greater than what you would have put yourself at. Like, you might have put yourself here and they're going to put you here. So expect to be rising, because it's a rising time. And a lot of the information about ciphering and figuring things out, I've done and I've been doing for 30 years with them. So when I come in to share information about those layers and pieces, I can really explain a lot of things, like why we're birthing a galaxy and how's that happening and what's going on with us that's making that possible, and where does that take place. And I can actually explain those things. At least I have one framework of explanation from my experience with it. If I don't have an explanation, I usually can tune in with you and we can listen together. And oftentimes, if I hear something you haven't heard, I'll always ask you if that feels right first before I assume, because I trust you. Number one, I trust the person that you are, to know and understand the truth of you. and what you're experiencing and feeling first. So put your trust in you. Because I do. And I believe that that's where it all sits. You know, trust that, trust you, and trust the divine is always trying to make its way in its communication to you, whether it's through your heart, whether it's from a fairy, whether it's from the dragons, whether it's from the earth itself, whether it's the sky above you or the tree you're sitting under. God can talk to you from any place, anytime, anywhere. Keep your heart open and let the divine give you what it's trying to give you.
Thank you.
Yeah, certainly. So we've done really well. We're at 8:20. I don't know if does anybody have any questions for Kelley? I know she loves to. We could go. So when Kelley and I talk, we lose at least a couple of hours.
Well, I could talk forever about topics. So, and I've worked with a lot of different aspects of ceremony and ritual with dragons. So, you know, many of the things that I've learned take us into a relationship of understanding that we are very connected to each other and life around us. So for me, you know, take your questions to the earth, take your question to the water, take your question to the source, take your question to your dragons and ask a lot of questions. I'll never forget, I was with an elder at a wedding, and she said to this group of us, do you know what the most important 3-letter word is in the human language? And we were like bonkers for 30 minutes trying to figure out that word until my husband at the time said, "Oh, can I ask you a question?" She goes, "What did you say?" And we all went, "Oh, ask." And she goes, "Yes." And we were like, you can believe these are like people with master's degrees and like really educated people. And they're all adults sitting here for 30 minutes trying to figure out what that 3-letter word she was trying to ask us about was ask. And it was so funny when we all got it. We all felt like, I mean, I think everyone blushed. It was like, how many of you feel foolish right now? I mean, everyone. And it was so cute, though, and also profound. And I never forgot it.
Right.
I will never forget that. Because one of the things she was saying was, think about it. The word ask is important to every aspect of your life. If you want to have a relationship with somebody, you have to ask. If you want to learn something, you want to go to school, you have to ask. If you want to know something from your guides, you have to ask. Everything is about asking. Ask more questions. And don't forget to ask. Ask a lot.
Ask, yes. Sure.
Yeah,
So I
so
think
that's a question to ask me. Well, maybe that means I did such a good job of sharing that you're satiated and you have all that you need right now for me. And bless you on that. Would you like a song before I go?
yes, you have to do. I was just going to say you're either going to sing or something. So
You want the earth? You want the heart bowl or the bowl from the metal bowl? Metal or crystal? You choose.
Crystal.
Okay. All right. So I invite you all to receive this from your hearts. So just drop in, close your eyes. And I'm going to invite the celestial dragons and the Divine Mother to sing through me to your hearts right now in this moment.
That was beautiful, Kelley. Thank you. And put us right back in our bodies. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you again. And I know we'll be talking soon. I will be putting this up on my website, and we'll be posting this. So if you missed it, I know Debbie's here as well, and I know and Simone. Thank you for staying up late, and Debbie's from the UK, so thank you. Thank you again, Kelley. Always awesome. And we'll be announcing when we've figured out what our podcast is. We'll be blasting it everywhere, so look out for it. So I think you're going to get us for a couple of podcasts.
Yeah, we're going to start.
Yes. And also, if you're interested in coming on our podcast, let us know.
Yeah.
I'm going to go, Jason, where are you?
Awesome. Sign him up.
Yes. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you all for joining us. And I'll catch you again next month. Okay. Thank you. Have a good night.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.